Hello, everybody! Live from Super Bowl Radio Row, welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast presented by Factor Meal Kits. Head to factormeals.com/Eagles50 and use code Eagles50 to get 50% off. Bo Wulf and Zach Berman here. Welcome to Vegas, Zach, your favorite place in the world.
It's one of them. Love being here. Feel the energy. I feel the excitement. Excited for a week of shows.
Super Bowl and Vegas together. This is like a Zach Berman fever dream.
Among those two things.
And being one of the first shows live today. I mean,
Exactly.
An early morning Las Vegas Super Bowl. I can't imagine anything else that, unless Topanga goes walking by behind us, then
let's not elevate Topanga. No, this is great. This is great. I can say that I'm a fan of West Coast time, right? Up at 4:30 this morning. It felt natural, right? 7:30 back home. And as you're at a Super Bowl and it's still Monday, but you start to feel the energy build up, right?
Yeah,
By
this
Wednesday
is still
here, it's
the
gonna be
very
buzzing.
beginning, yes.
Exactly.
And as we go along this week, shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at noon. We started a little bit late today, but that's okay. Yeah, got to get the setup going.
Nick Sirianni time, as I like to call it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
There was a snowstorm a couple months ago. That's why we're 20 minutes late today. We've got lots of guests lined up. We're going to hear from E.J. Smith in a little bit to talk about what are the top priorities for this Eagles season. But as the week goes on, we'll try to sort of pull people in. Tonight is media night, Zach. You're going to get a chance to try to talk to Andy Reid. Who are your top priorities for media night tonight?
Well, there's so many people I'm looking forward to speaking to, but on the Kansas City side, certainly Andy Reid. If you think about it, so it's 2024, as we all know, breaking news, right? And 1999 was when Andy Reid was hired. So 25 years, a good number there. And
good time to reflect on the past sort of quarter decade of Eagles history if you were in
or quarter
the mood
century.
for something like that.
Yeah, quarter century.
Quarter century, that's what I meant.
Yeah, quarter decade. He was actually in the championship games within a quarter decade, but certainly not winning Super Bowls like this. But, yeah, looking forward to speaking to him. Looking forward to catching up with Javon Hargrave, either tonight or this week. There's a few other.
Prince Tagovailoa, Matt Pryor.
Ken Flagel.
Flage. We talked to Flage last year.
Yes. So a lot of people I'm looking forward to catching up with. Some people in the Chiefs organization who, I've gotten to know over the years. And then the Niners. Don't know the Niners as well, but looking forward to that. So that will be tonight. And then we'll keep having some more guests as the week goes on and start speaking to players on different teams. We'll have Bo on the Street, which is one of my favorite features. Is
not
that
a feature that has ever existed before, so an odd thing for you to say.
I just mean, like, you put Bo in the wild to do interviews. Bo knows Eagles Esoterica, the Wolf's Den, however you want to frame it. You have Bo asking interesting questions, interesting people.
Let's not build it up too much.
Hey, I can't wait.
Okay, maybe you can do it.
I can't do it as well as you can. That's the
well,
reality.
we'll get into a little bit more of the Vegas of it all, the interesting things that happened on our flight with EJ, who was on our flight. But let's quickly get into some of the little Eagles news that has trickled out since we last spoke on Friday. Do you want to do a Stone Cold Newsman? Give us the updated info on the Eagles coaching staff.
Yeah, according to ESPN, the Eagles are adding Doug Nussmeier as their quarterbacks coach. Now, Doug Nussmeier, as we discussed on the emergency show a week ago, last Sunday. Thank you. I can hear you better now.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the show, there's so many shows going on here, so I didn't know if I was talking about you or talking about hockey. Anyways, Doug Nussmeier, who has a background with Kellen Moore, worked with him in Dallas, worked with him with the Chargers, but has offensive coordinator experience too. He called plays with Florida, with Washington. That's the Washington Huskies, okay? And Steve Belichick is with the Washington Huskies now, not the Washington Commanders. He was with the...
Good cutoff for a reference that nobody else knows anything about.
Yes. Which is right up your alley, right?
Sort of.
The University of Michigan.
Usually it's an in-joke with the sickos.
The University of Michigan, Alabama. So certainly a credentialed quarterbacks coach. He has a lot of experience here. He'll be working closely.
The Dream Team staff continues.
He'll be working closely with Jalen Hurts and then obviously with Kellen Moore. Elsewhere, it was reported by Bruce Feldman of The Athletic that D.K. McDonald is going to the University of Kansas. So we expected there to be changes across the defensive coaching staff, and McDonald we didn't expect to be back in the same capacity. We thought the Eagles would add a defensive backs coach. That's a position that we figured Vic Fangio would bring in his own coach. DK McDonald, though, has a long history with Nick Sirianni. They worked together at the Indiana University of Pennsylvania. They were actually roommates together there, and they were in each other's weddings. And McDonald started as like an assistant D-backs coach, worked his way up with the Eagles, was a part of the original staff, and was the D-backs coach last year. So that's a notable change for the Eagles, and we'll see who they add. And then
do you make of that this is like a continued clipping of Sirianni's wings, or was this sort of, I mean, it felt like the writing was on the wall there anyway.
Yeah, I really thought that coaching staff and personnel-wise, that defensive staff or that defense was going to be overturned. So you can't obviously get rid of all these players, but I figured they would have a new secondaries coach. I didn't know if it would be a reassignment of DK McDonald. Sometimes you see that. But look, he gets to go to Kansas, who had a really good defense last year. But
we still don't know the identity of the new secondaries coach.
No, we don't. And, that will probably sort it out in the next few days and weeks, especially now that all the NFL staffs are filled. And I imagine these position coaches, those, the musical chairs, if you will start to settle.
I feel like if this staff continues apace and, they hire a secondaries coach who has been a defensive coordinator before or something like that, it really does create an odd dynamic where, like, aside from the holdovers, like, Nick Sirianni is going to be the only person who hasn't been in a bigger job somewhere else. Like, everybody else is downgraded a level from the biggest job they've had.
Which is the opposite of how last year's staff was, frankly. Last year's staff was a lot of elevations, was a lot of promotions. So that doesn't surprise me, and it's probably a good thing. You get an experienced staff. The thing with that is...
Well, a wise man avoids all extremes.
Wise, I don't know if that's an extreme per se, but certainly the way you look at that is big personalities, a lot of experience. If you're a defensive coordinator and you're going to be a defensive lines coach, or a defensive coordinator and you're going to be a defensive backs coach, or a defensive coordinator and you're going to be a linebackers coach, then you bring a certain amount of gravitas to the room that I don't know if the Eagles had last year when they were either promoting or hiring from the college level. So I think that is a notable difference, and considering the way the defense played last year and some of the things that we're hearing from that unit, it's probably a welcome change.
I agree. I do think that it is a recipe for ego clashing. Like, if every single person is like, well, I could do that job better in their mind, I don't know how like combustible that might be.
That's such a cynical way to view the world, that everyone has an ego that they're bringing that thinks they can do it better. What about being part of a team? Being part of a staff?
How about leaning into the fact that you've covered this league for a decade and you know how this works?
That is true. Yeah, it certainly depends on the person, depends on the role, but also people want jobs. And if you're a defensive coordinator who is getting replaced somewhere else, then typically that is, you're not going to get another D coordinator job. So you have to go down a level. And so it makes sense. Now, I would be more worried about it from the ego clashing perspective, if you will, if the Eagles had a first-time defensive coordinator, right? Like if they were promoting a linebackers coach to D coordinator, and then they have brought in all these former D coordinators to be position coaches, then that's where you say, similar to probably Matt Patricia and Sean Desai this past year, right? Like someone's looking over your shoulder. But Vic Fangio, he comes in, he has that gravitas as it is, so I don't think he's necessarily has to be worried about someone trying to take his role.
I think you're right about the defense, but I said this before, it does sort of set up to me like a defense versus offense type deal, where we've seen that before. That's a famous trope in Eagles history. It's something that's on my radar.
Sure, and it's going to be incumbent upon Nick Sirianni to make sure that does not occur, to coach the coaches, if you will. The last thing that happened this weekend, I don't know if you caught any of the Pro Bowl yesterday. Did you catch that?
I did not.
Okay, so Jalen Hurts ran a little Philly special type play on the 6-year anniversary of the Philly special.
Where could we read about that?
Underdogs, the Philadelphia Eagles' emotional road Super Bowl victory, which you can find anywhere books are sold. And shout out to listener, reader in Germany who got the book.
Vitold.
I love that. I hope the shipping costs were okay.
I actually don't think that was vetold. I think it was a different German listener.
Also,
we have so many German listeners.
It was pretty humbling to see, by the way. I was on eBay.
Johannes?
I was on eBay, and I saw a copy of that book, a signed copy of the book. It was on sale for like $970 something. But the funny part about it is you see who I personalized the copy to.
Oh, no.
So it's like...
Oh, who was it?
I can actually pull it up and tell you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, let me pull that up. But
that's depressing.
That was funny to see. But yeah, so Jalen Hurts did not catch. He looked more like Tom Brady than Nick Foles out there.
Oh, I missed this.
Yeah.
And Malcolm Jenkins ran on the field and slapped him on the butt and said, come on, Jalen?
Now, it wasn't a great pass from CeeDee Lamb, but that was an Eagles-related note in the Pro Bowl. Jason Kelce, as you would imagine, was like the man about town there, right? Camera loved him. RG3, loved talking about him during the. I was watching the Pro Bowl with my son. He was loving it, and it wasn't a great event for Landon Dickerson or the flag football doesn't really fit it. Yeah, but. It was cool to see. It was cool to watch. As
you go on eBay, I do think the sickos are going to want to know what was the resolution to the Stanley auction that was supposed to close on Sunday.
It did. It sold.
Right at 60, or did anybody come in over the top?
61.
61. Wow.
Look here, Dee. Hope this book brings back good memories. Thank you for reading. Enjoy. Then my signature. So Dee.
Wow, Dee. Now, do you think that was for Dee or a gift for Dee from someone else?
Good question.
You don't remember Dee?
I don't remember. I remember. This is my typical signature for it. Hope this brings back good memories.
I got to tell you, very good handwriting, because your handwriting when you're taking notes is not legible. Oh. That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So this is $9.95. So you can buy
all caps. That's cool.
Yeah, Jalen Rose writes in all caps as well.
Is that why you do it?
It's not why I do it, but it makes me feel good about doing it.
Okay. Last thing before we get to ad breaks and bring on E.J. Smith. Commanders made their hires for coordinators. What did you make of those?
Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Witt Jr. Joe Witt Jr., by the way, a friend of Jonathan Gannon's. They work together with the Falcons, I believe. Just want to mention that.
Do you just you fire off a text to JG every time a person gets hired? Are you friends with him or her?
No, not necessarily, but I know the names that Jonathan Gannon's mentioned over the years.
Okay.
So you have a database of Gannon references, if you will.
Okay.
So what do I make of it? Cliff Kingsbury, he's a polarizing figure in the football world. I mean, his offenses in Arizona were productive at times, unimaginative at times. The connecting the dots that you see is that he worked at USC last year with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is a DC native. I mean, that would be like a slam dunk for Washington, but they have to get from 2 to 1 to do it probably. And I imagine that's a significant trade to get it from 2 to 1. So it certainly adds a wrinkle to the draft. We have a super chat, by the way.
Oh, do we?
Yes, super chat. How about I read this time?
Okay.
Once I get this off of my screen.
Would you say Jason Kelce being on the winning NFC snap team during Pro Bowl weekend counts as an Eagle wins something for the purposes of Swooper? I don't know. Did we have that as a Swooper?
Did we? We didn't. I don't think we did. We didn't do a Swooper for the.
I think we will do a Swooper on Friday for the Super Bowl, though.
I love that. We need a third person, though.
Or if not a Swooper, a Goose Wisely.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, EJ, why don't you come get a seat as we talk about some of our friends who are making this happen in Vegas this weekend. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, all users get $100 off when they buy a big game ticket with code VEGAS100. What would you do with a free $100? You could buy Underdogs, the Philadelphia Eagles' emotional road to Super Bowl victory, for $10 on eBay, and then use the rest of the money, $90, put it on black, double it up, who knows, whatever you want to do. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You know all about Game Time. We've been talking about Game Time since day one. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It is the place to find last-minute tickets, find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With zone deals, you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Right now, all Game Time users get $100 off a big game ticket with code VEGAS100. Terms apply. Just download the Game Time app and use code VEGAS100 for $100 off a big game ticket. Or, if you're not going to the game, use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
As Bo mentioned at the top of the show, we're presented by Factor Meal Kits. We appreciate their support. And Factor Meal Kits, so it's February now, but we're still in the resolutions. And I had a resolution this year to eat healthier. Well, where can I do that? You can get started with Factor. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery store altogether, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-created, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose from per week. That's incredible. That's enough to last you through the week. It includes options like keto, calorie, smart, vegan and veggie, and more. Plus, they have over 55 weekly add-ons. You'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Forget frantic lunch preps and rush dinners. Factor's 2-minute meals are your secret weapon in the new year. Fuel up fast with restaurant-quality meals all delivered right to your door. And if you have a special occasion, it's Valentine's Day coming up. Think about that. Gourmet Plus is the perfect solution if you're looking for fast, upscale options done easily. And when things get hectic, Factor is flexible. Change your order up every week with plans from 4 to 18 meals per week, or pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. Not only does Factor offer fast, simple solutions when I'm too busy to cook, they also help me stay on top of my goals with offerings like Protein Plus and Keto. I can stay on track. This is definitely going to come in handy for my new year and post-Super Bowl goals. Factor has everything I need for a week of flavorful, nutritious eats. In addition to ready-to-eat meals, they have cold-pressed juices, smoothies, energy bites, extra protein, veggie sides, and more to keep me energized during frantic times. Head to factormeals.com/Eagles50 and use code Eagles50 to get 50% off. That's 50% off. That's code Eagles50 at factormeals.com/Eagles50 to get 50% off.
Nicely done, Zach.
Thank you. I'm passionate about Factor Meals, so I want to
As you should
support
be.
it to our
They're
audience.
making this
We
all
appreciate their
happen for
support.
us.
They
The
have us here in
PHLY
Vegas.
Eagles podcast in Vegas, brought to you by Factor Meal Kits. EJ Smith, the man, the myth, the legend. We hung out in Mobile a couple days ago. Now we're here in Vegas. We're just world traveling together. And not only that, you had the pleasure of being on the same flight as us out here.
PHLY charter, right?
That's right. That was a good line. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, I want to say first time, long time. You know, I have you guys on my television a lot. My wife and my dogs, you know, they're very familiar with your voices and the cadence of the show. So, no, I appreciate you guys having me.
Is your dog offended by how much Bo teases me?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that my dogs are probably a little bit Team Bo here. You know, it's good for the show. It's comedy. So.
Okay.
It's all love.
Love in Vegas, right?
I mean, I guess. I don't know. This is not a tease.
Okay.
But you were there. I think we both witnessed what felt like sort of an existential borderline breakdown from Zach on the plane when the Wi-Fi was not working. Now, like the entertainment was working. You know, this is like an 8 o'clock flight, 5-hour flight to Vegas. So you could try to sleep, but tough decision. Obviously, Zach's going to want to be working, and I saw the drink cart coming through, and I know I could see because you were one row ahead of me and one row behind EJ, and I could see you like you don't want to bother anybody. I know that you don't want to impose, but you also you got some work that you want to get done. You're like, is there any chance I'm going to fix the Wi-Fi?
I didn't say it like that. I said, excuse me, will the Wi-Fi be operational on this flight? And she explained to me that the Wi-Fi is not available, but all the entertainment is. But the entertainment doesn't write stories for me, right? So, yeah, I like to work on flights. I find it inefficient if I'm not. And so I did watch a good Barry Sanders documentary.
I like that. I like that doc.
I had some books I wanted to get to, but I said, you know what, I can catch some sleep. And so I put on The Office, fell asleep for a bit. But no, I did miss that Wi-Fi, and I know EJ did too, because EJ had a good story in the Inquirer today.
Yeah, I felt a little bad. I mentioned that on our way to the hotel. Like, oh, yeah, I got something coming up at 5 a.m. I just saw Zach's face drop. Like, oh, I got beat to the punch on that one.
If you were in Houston with Jalen Hurts, I mean, my face would drop all the way to the ground, right? Which you've done very well in the past,
I appreciate it.
So it's cool having EJ on. Although you said first time, long time, it's your first time on set with us.
Yeah.
But you did have a great spot last week from Mobile with Bo.
Yes. And Olivia.
And Olivia.
You got her those pretzels.
Yeah.
Olivia talking about the pretzels. So that was like your...
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
That was like your orientation. That was your slow tease into the sicko community here at PHLY. So anyways, it's awesome to have you here.
It's great to be
here. And we have a
Yeah.
lot to pick your brain about.
I do. I have one other thing to get to, speaking of Mobile, before we get to the Eagle stuff.
Yeah.
I do want to get on the record this interaction that I witnessed when we were at dinner together. And Ben Solak, great guy, came over to say hi. And he, like, I had to introduce the two of you to each other. He didn't know who you were. You've covered him on that show.
I'm like,
how does he not know who you are?
I'm like Moonlit Ben. Like, you know, if Ben's not there, I kind of stand in for him. And I think we had met one time, so I'm not gonna lie. Like, it hurt my ego a little bit. I wasn't offended at all.
Okay.
No. We met at like the Super Bowl last year, kind of very quickly.
He's a busy guy. He's got a lot of people to meet.
I try not to ever like insult someone by being like, "Hi, my name is EJ." If like they, if I've met them before, because then they think I didn't remember the time we met.
Sure,
so,
but you also want to give them the out of if they don't remember your name, you want to give them the name.
Yeah.
I know we've met before. I'm Bo. Yeah.
No, so the solution here is you never say nice to meet you. Always say nice to see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the key.
That's a good tip right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Just substitute meet for see.
Yeah.
And then you're in the clear, because it is offensive when it's like it's nice to meet you. It's like, actually we met before. Yeah. So
what if it is definitely the first time? Would you still, if you know for sure that okay?
Yeah, it's always nice to nice to see you always works. Hey Zach, nice to see you. Right.
How much longer until you have a self-help book for these types of things?
That's
I mean,
a great
you are
question.
like such a resource for like professional development and like handling these types of situations.
I know
your next book.
I'd love to read like 101 sayings to live your life by Zach Berman.
I mean, I can get you to 1,001, honestly.
I mean, I'm trying to save you the work, but
never be afraid of work.
Yeah, but say Zach's not afraid.
Yeah, never be afraid of work.
Okay.
Yeah, just like Jim Harbaugh. Did you say he wants to live in the RV next to the team facility?
How lovely for his wife.
I'm envious of that. That's awesome, right? Get right to work. It's more efficient that way.
You guys got something wrong with you, but it's nice. All right, EJ, let me ask you this question. Open-ended. Now that the coaching staff is mostly settled, what do you think is in Howie Roseman's mind the number one priority heading into the offseason?
Well, broad spectrum, I think the defense in general. I think that they've got issues on multiple levels. I think the defensive front is talented enough, but we all know that Howie likes to target those positions, whether it's defensive tackle or edge rusher. But when you look at it, I honestly feel like the secondary is the thing that they need to rework the most. I think when you look at Vic Fangio's defenses, there's a lot of versatility that's required. There's a lot of, dynamism. Dynamism, thank you. You've done this before. Yeah, there's a lot. You need these playmakers. You need guys who can kind of, muddy the picture and get to spots. So I think that the secondary is probably the area that is most pressing in terms of you need a corner, I would imagine, and you need a safety, at least one safety. So, I think that's where I would start.
So if I can follow up on the corner thing here, and this is, I imagine, I'm giving you a little sneak peek of a talking point you might hear from the Eagles this offseason. And they're going to say Keely Ringo is our third-round pick. They traded a third-round pick. They traded their 2024 third-round pick to get Keely Ringo, 20 years old when they drafted him. And I imagine what they'll say is if you put Keely Ringo in this year's draft, he would go before the third round. Now, he'd be 21 this year. I actually thought I wasn't impressed during training camp. I said that then. I thought he closed the year well, and he gives them promise. Now, I understand you need more than one young corner, but do you think the discussion of like cornerbacks, this long-term need, do you think it's missing the Keely Ringo factor because they might say Keely Ringo would have had a second-round grade if he was in this year's draft?
Possibly, but I feel like they need a legitimate playmaker at one of those spots. You know, I think when you look at Vic Fangio's previous stops.
So the pick six in the Super Bowl is not the in the national championship? It's not, okay.
Not quite, yeah, no. Okay. I think if you look at Vic Fangio's previous stops, he's had guys like Jalen Ramsey, he's had guys like Patrick Surtain. I think that the defense that he runs, listen, I think he's a flexible coach. I don't think that he has to have exactly what he's had at his previous stops, but when you looked at what he's been successful with in the past, he hasn't, it's not been like just guys at those positions. And I think Keely Ringo could be like a competent starter, but I think they maybe should aspire for more than that if they want to run the defense that Fangio has run in the past.
I sort of feel like from a long-term roster building perspective, Keely Ringo is your James Bradberry replacement, and they need to use the draft to find their Darius Slay replacement.
Yeah, I think it's a good observation. I think like it wouldn't surprise me. I know that the last few years there have been corners that have been on their radar. I think they view it as a premium position.
They do.
Right. It wouldn't surprise me if their first round pick was a corner this year.
I also think, to your point about the secondary, if you say water gun to my belly button right now, what is the position that the Eagles' biggest spending player in free agency, their biggest outlay is going to be to what position? I think it's safety, and I would put a lot of turkeys on that, I feel like.
So I haven't done a ton of, I'm just getting started on the draft stuff, but I know that Zach has to love Cooper DeJean, and I kind of just want to throw him out here.
Why?
Because he's like, one of these guys, a playmaker. He feels a little bit, no offense, Zach, he feels a little bit like the esoteric draft nerds, type of player. Are you not in on Cooper DeJean?
I'm not as crazy about him as I think the draft.
I bet
nerds
Chip
might
loves
be.
him.
I do think Iowa defenders are well coached. Phil Parker's a heck of a defense coordinator.
Well, he intrigues me because this is a guy who could probably play safety. He might be a safety, honestly, but get a chess piece and figure out where he fits. You mentioned the Slay replacement. If Slay's back next year, which I would assume he would be,
I think so,
then you can play Cooper DeJean at safety for a year and then see, he's a chess piece. Again, he's not, married to one position. So I was intrigued by a Cooper DeJean. Again, I'm early in the draft process. I haven't been, pulling up my YouTube, all snaps versus one defense or one offense yet. But yeah, no, I thought he was an intriguing name.
I just sort of feel like as they plot it out, you've got, they feel good about Sidney Brown long term. You can't count on him necessarily making a big impact this year. We'll see how his rehab goes.
Yeah.
You've got Reed Blankenship as another good young player, has had some injury concerns, but you can sort of pencil him in. They need a guy who is Kevin Byard from 3 years ago. It's a pretty good safety. It's a pretty good safety class of free agents. It's a much more guesswork from rookies at that position.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to use a premium pick on a safety and think that this guy is going to come in and be ready right away to be like the guy who Vic Fangio relies on.
Right.
Whereas I think they would do that with a veteran.
Yeah, and I mean they're you're right. It's a good class. Xavier McKinney, Cam Curl's in that class. Antoine Winfield's in the class, but is he going to make it out of Tampa Bay? I kind of doubt it. So there are a lot of options for sure.
And there's some also potential salary cap casualties. Quandre Diggs could come free from Seattle, a couple other guys. So that's sort of how I feel about that going. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, if I had to use the turkeys on a free agent signing, I would think safety. To your point, I think that's a spot where Howie has kind of trusted free agency more than the draft.
Sure.
He's talked in the past about the challenge of evaluating safeties coming out, and some of it's based on scheme, some of it's, with the college offenses now. That might be a dated way of thinking because college offenses and NFL offenses are somewhat comparable. But it has been a challenging position for them to evaluate. And like you said, I think it's a deep free agent safety class, and I don't think it's a particularly good safety draft class unless you're moving a corner over to safety like a Cooper DeJean. I also think, and I've been saying this, I like some of these linebackers in this draft class. So I don't think that's a position where I would rush to sign someone, because I think you can find in the second or third round someone who can be an every down linebacker for you, whether it is Junior Colson, whether it is a Cooper from Texas A&M. I know everyone in Philly wants Jeremiah Trotter Jr., right? But I think there's some decent linebackers in this class, and I would rather sign a safety and draft a linebacker than sign a linebacker and draft a safety.
Well, it doesn't have to be either or.
It doesn't have to be either or.
And I actually sort of disagree about linebacker. I think we have seen that play out enough of we don't need to sign a linebacker in free agency. We'll see how the draft plays out, and then we'll address it afterwards. I do not think that they can just say, well, we've got Nakobe Dean. We don't need another linebacker right now. I think they need to sign somebody of the just a little bit above the Kaiser White level, like a $3 or $4 million guy. Now, it is not a great class of free agent linebackers, it looks like, so that might be easier said than done. But also, I don't think they should spend a second-round pick on a linebacker. I think their draft valuation of the position makes sense to me. I think they should use 1 or 2 fifth-round picks on the position. But I do not think that they can just be like, well, Nakobe, we love the player, we love the person, we're ready to go there. I think that that's a place where they probably do need, for Vic's defense, somebody of a higher floor.
As much as Howie has talked about, the safety position as being hard to evaluate, if you look at his track record drafting linebackers, especially on day 2, it's really spotty. I mean, it's Davion Taylor and it's Nakobe Dean in the last few years. I think he has as much trouble evaluating that position as safety at this point.
I don't think I hear you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think at linebacker it's more the valuation than the evaluation because they just don't want to spend those resources on linebackers. And they think that's a position where you could draft and develop, where you can find bargain players. And when it works, you get T.J. Edwards and you get Kaiser White. When it doesn't work, you get Zach Brown. Or
but to your point, they've used 2 third-round picks on the position.
Right, they have used some resources on it.
Well, we don't know if Dean hasn't worked out yet, but
Sure, no, you're right. Dean could come back next year healthy and play really well. But at the very least, the Davion Taylor pick, that is the starting linebacker that this defense is missing in some ways.
Exactly.
They have used resources on it. They just haven't been able to really. I guess what I would concede is that it's been both. It's been the evaluation and the valuation.
I'm still standing by Jeremy Chinn being an Eagle next year, whether it's at safety, whether it's a weak side linebacker type thing. I think Jeremy Chinn's gonna be an Eagle next year.
Okay. Now, just to follow up on the earlier super chat. It is in reference to another super chat here. The swooper question was for a swooper game among friends. They wanted to get the ruling from Bo. And this is the problem with swooper. If you don't clarify it, you have to do these things in advance. And so, I mean, it feels a little bit cheap to say that an Eagle wins something. Is Jason Kelce being on the winning NFC team count for that? And it feels like that's probably not the spirit of the proposition. But also, you can't necessarily argue with that by the letter of the law.
If you think about the Bo Wulf legacy in life, where does people playing swooper independently fall on that list? Because that is impressive that all of a sudden you've created this game that a faction of Eagles fans are playing among friends.
Probably at the top.
Wow, that's a big deal, and it's a credit to you. That is your game. It took me 2 years to understand what the game was, so credit to these listeners and viewers who picked it up pretty quickly.
What else is on your radar for the offseason, EJ?
I love the draft. I know I'm late to it this year, but the draft is always something that I really try to dive into. I'm kind of like you guys. I take it as a real point of pride if I get, a mock draft pick right, or just identify somebody, especially the later round guys.
Now you have to adjudicate that because he made a noise.
Yes.
You heard that noise.
Yes. I was ready to say. So, have you heard this debate? Have we had it off camera?
That Bo has a wide net?
Yeah, he predicted Nolan Smith.
Okay,
so here he predicted Nolan Smith to be the 10th overall pick. Does he get credit for that if he goes 30th?
I predicted that Nolan Smith would be the Eagles' first-round pick. Nolan Smith was the Eagles' first-round pick.
You predicted he would be the Eagles' first-round pick.
The Eagles didn't draft at number 10, so no one got it right unless you predicted a trade.
It's sequentially there were 2 picks. You predicted he would be the first one.
I said
he went 200% later in the draft than you predicted him to go.
I said Nolan Smith was going to be a first-round pick. Nolan Smith was their first-round pick. I mean, Bo, if this was you, you'd be. It is true.
So beneath you.
Beneath me. I mean, Bo, it's literal. It's fact.
It's your worst argument.
That Nolan Smith's going to be a first-round pick, and Nolan Smith was a first-round pick. I said they liked Nolan Smith in the first round. I said 10 because I thought Jalen Carter was going to be off the board. But I thought they were going to take Nolan Smith. They took Nolan Smith.
Did you ever say that they were going to trade back? I feel like I remember you saying they might trade back. And
I
get
did,
him.
yeah. A matter of fact, that's what I said. I said this would be an interesting trade back candidate. I thought it'd be in
From
the mid-teen.
10.
Yeah, in the teens. So, look, I predicted them taking Nolan Smith in the first round.
It's so beneath you.
You're just upset that you haven't had the same hit rate. This is what
I'm
3
not
years in a
upset.
3 years in a row that I've nailed the first
That
round
you've
pick.
just done the popular thing. Yeah, that's fine.
I had them taking Jordan Davis. I had them taking Devontae Smith. Look, I mean,
Yeah, those were correct.
okay.
You got those right. This one you did not get right.
But they didn't take any of those players at the spot that I said they were going to take them.
Oh, you didn't have the Jordan Davis trade up?
It's so different.
I didn't have the trade up. Well, because I don't predict trades for my final mock draft.
I'm going to take a whiff here. I had the Jordan Davis trade up.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had it.
Okay, that's a good. That's,
I figured,
now you
like-
had the exact trade up. You had them going to Baltimore.
Yeah, I said that they had
Or-
to
or-
leapfrog Baltimore to get
okay.
him. Yeah, which hasn't really worked
Bad
out for
pick.
them so far. Yeah.
Wait, so you're a draft guy, as you said. Now, I like this term, you're late to the draft, because I keep hearing that. Does that mean that you're just not watching college football on Saturday? Does that mean you're just grinding the tape now? Like, if I asked you 2 months ago who Cooper DeJean was, would you have known who he was?
No, I'm not
Okay.
a college football sicko like you.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I mean, I try, but it's tough during the season. You know, I don't know how you do it. Like, you've got kids and
Yeah.
actual obligations. Like, I just like to spend time with my family or be out of the house on a Saturday. But I
Live a
wouldn't
healthy
have,
life, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have known as much about Cooper DeJean 2 months ago. So when I say I'm late, I haven't I've watched some of these guys on TV, but I haven't sat down and I like to watch full games of guys. It's hard to get the all-22 for me at least. Maybe you
Okay.
guys are plugged in enough to get it. But for me, I at least want to watch guys full games against some of the better offenses that they play or the defenses that they play before I can really render a legitimate opinion in my I wouldn't sit here and tell you what Cooper DeJean is good at or bad at yet because I haven't dove into the film. I
Okay.
haven't crunched
Look at
the film
that.
yet.
I respect
Yeah.
that.
Got to crunch that.
Yeah, got to eat some film. Yeah, that's what's next for me after the Super Bowl.
So we're at the Super Bowl here, okay? And this is your second Super Bowl. You're here last year. Okay, what's what do you get most excited for Super Bowl week? What gets your juices flowing Super Bowl week?
Media night is interesting. It's definitely productive if you can make it productive. So that was, again, this is the beginning of my second time. So I thought media night was really great last year, being able to get some people that you maybe otherwise wouldn't have been able to get. And then really, honestly, Zach, it all becomes a blur until the game. And then the game, I'll be honest, last year, it's funny, Les Bowen, name drop Les Bowen, a mentor of mine, somebody who I appreciate greatly.
Shout out to Les.
Yeah, he told me before the week started, make sure you take a second to appreciate, that you're there.
That's
and,
nice.
just kind of
More Bowen, I say.
Yeah, right. So
That is a Bo
basically,
joke if I've ever
yeah,
heard one.
just take a step back and appreciate it. And it's funny because I didn't do it. He warned me. It's it's going to be a blur, and it was. I think when the team you cover is here, you're just so focused on the work and the competition. Waking up every morning and seeing what you guys had written, and Zach's Darius Slay banana pudding story really. That felt like the counterpunch for the Hurt story you mentioned earlier. That really dug at me because I wanted to do that story. So
I thought I did
especially
taste the Super Bowl last year. Yeah, I was happy about that.
Yeah,
Thank
you had an excellent Super Bowl,
Thank you.
Zach. Yeah, especially as a lifelong fan of banana pudding, it really hurt that you got that story ahead of me.
I'd still take the Hurts and Houston story, but okay.
Yeah, so it was a blur last year. So honestly, I remember media night being a good opportunity, and I remember the game. That was the 1 second I got to be okay, I'm about to cover the Super Bowl. College version of myself would have really thought that this was a cool opportunity.
So my advice there, I'm
happy
sorry,
to take your
Someone who had a great Super Bowl last year.
As someone who got the Darius Slay banana pudding
I
story.
won't live that down, won't I? Sorry. Yeah, I said decent, not great. There were some things I would have liked better. But no, in general, national anthem. Take the national anthem before a preseason game, before a regular season game, before the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Use that time man, this is pretty cool, right? That's the Les Bowen, make sure you take time to appreciate it.
Yeah.
The national anthem's a good time to take inventory of, this is a pretty cool moment.
So then I'll get the Nick Sirianni tears, the pre-Super Bowl
That's
emotions.
exactly what Nick did.
I actually find the national anthem at the Super Bowl, I found myself getting a little bit emotional
Really?
because it's everybody here, this is the most important thing. This is, there's so much energy in the building at that point.
Yeah, and I can't remember the name of the artist who did the national anthem last year. Country singer Chris
Stapleton.
Stapleton. Yeah. He's
Good for
great.
you, Zach.
Yeah, big
Covered
fan
the
of music
Super Bowl.
over here. Yeah, he was awesome.
Did you watch the Grammys last night?
I did not. He was great. I appreciate his guitar playing as a fellow guitar player. So, it was definitely a good national anthem last year.
Give us like 60 seconds on your guitar.
Ooh.
Sickodom.
I am a gear nerd for sure. I'm kind of a recovering gear nerd, getting out of it a little bit because it is as my mom would put it, a rabbit trail. You get stuck down the trail and you can't turn around.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of like old guitars. I've got like a Martin acoustic that like is from 1959. That's like my prized possession.
Wow.
I'm a big Jimi Hendrix fan, big Stevie Ray Vaughan fan. I'm kind of like a blues dad. Like that's an expression in the guitar world. Like I don't
What does
play
that
like
mean?
it means you play like blues music that was popular like in the 70s
What's
and
the
80s.
song? What's the
That's
example?
great. That sounds great to me.
Honestly, like just like it's called a 12-bar blues. You've heard it
Okay.
before, but I play a lot of Jimi Hendrix stuff, and honestly, like my I don't know if it's a guilty appreciation, but I really love John Mayer. I know John Mayer's kind of like
Okay.
a polarizing figure. Maybe not the person John Mayer, but
Sure.
the musician. He's awesome. He's like the last of I know I'm over 60 seconds, but you got me going here. John Mayer is like the last guitar hero. Like every other guitar hero is now like Instagram famous, but not actually famous.
Oh.
He's like the last one that is a household name that is awesome at guitar.
How's
Okay.
Jordan Mailata strong? Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped on you there.
Go ahead.
Jordan Mailata's guitar playing.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. He needs a bigger guitar. I keep
Okay.
telling him you need a nicer guitar, but B, your guitar looks so tiny in your hands. So, but he's a pretty good player.
Wish I had that problem.
Yeah, I would say Jordan and I might be. I might say I'm a better guitar player than Jordan.
Good for you.
I
I
might say
want to take your offensive line history as well. Give me your starting 5 offensive linemen of guitar players.
Ooh.
of guitar players.
Yes. Just based
How do
on
you do
their
that?
style.
Oh, okay.
Is left
Who's
tackle
going to be
most important?
the center is going to be the most
Okay.
cerebral,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, let's do this.
The left
So,
tackle is the most
I'm
physically
taking Jordan
talented.
Mailata because he's technically a musician, so I'm putting him at left tackle.
Okay.
I'm going to put B.B. King at center. Cerebral.
Oh, love that.
Yeah,
Love that.
cerebral. He's a big guy, so he's not going to get pushed around.
And he can take whatever's coming and go in that direction.
Yeah,
love
great
that.
innovator. From there, I feel like Can I add a tight end? Can I put
Yeah, sure.
Jimi Hendrix at tight end just because
okay.
he's a talented guy. He'll figure it out.
And he's like Kelsey. He'll just sort of riff and do whatever he
Yeah,
wants
exactly.
in the
Yeah,
route.
he's the creative type.
Okay.
I don't think that the Venn diagram of guitar players who are also big enough to play offensive line
Well,
really
sure,
stretches
but we're
that
talking
far.
skill sets, yeah.
There's a guy named Kingfish who's definitely big enough to play guitar or play offensive line. He's
Okay.
pretty good. He might be one of my guards.
Okay.
And then from there, I couldn't tell you. But put me in there. I can play right tackle. Yeah, I could do that.
All
Maybe
right.
not at the NFL level, but none of these guys are going to be that good.
Okay,
So
I like that.
Yeah, so that's a 4 out of 5 for you at least.
All right, that's solid. Well, EJ Smith, thank you so much. Where can our sickos follow you and read you?
EJ Smith 94 on Twitter.
Was that your high school number?
94? No, that's my birth year.
Right there, yeah.
Too young.
Yeah, and then Inquirer.com/EJ Smith. I probably shouldn't say this on air, but they gave me the author page, that's literally
As they
just my
should.
name. And then they told me that they weren't allowed to do that, so they told me to keep it under wraps. But I feel like every chance I get, I tell people that story. So Inquirer.com/EJ Smith. You can find my work there. So.
Awesome.
EJ is awesome on the Eagles beat. Make sure you check out everything he writes.
Everybody knows
Everything
that.
he writes
I
out.
appreciate you guys. I really do.
Thank you very much, EJ. Good stuff. And before we get to the end of the show, Zach, let me tell you a little bit about Rocket Money, because Rocket Money is how I save money by getting rid of my unwanted, superfluous subscriptions. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want, I can cancel it with just a tap. I never have to get on the phone with customer service. They will even try to get you a refund for the last couple months of wasted money to negotiate and lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY. rocketmoney.com/PHLY as we roll along on the PHLY Eagles podcast, brought to you by Factor Meal Kits. Zach, what's going on?
That was great. EJ was an awesome guest.
Fantastic.
The
He's a
chat,
pro.
The chat loves him. We got to get him on the show more. And EJ, I've known EJ since he started at the Inquirer, and it's just a great writer, great reporter, great person. So pumped to have EJ on. What's going on? You see Radio Row starting to fill up a little bit more.
The energy is building.
Yeah, you can see behind me here that these tables are starting to fill. Credit to All-City. That's our parent company. We have 7 shows going while we're here. I see the CHGO show is right next to us.
The Bears boys.
Before that, they had What Chaos, our hockey show. I see DNVR over there. We got we got the PHX show. So we got
PHNX.
Yeah, I'm sorry, PHNX. They talk Jonathan Gannon, so I definitely watch.
Yeah, of course.
And then we got All-City.
And they got a Bo.
And they got a Bo. Yeah, Battle of the Bows.
Who spells it correctly.
The All-City and NFL shows here.
And I got to say, like, the race from the checkout, or like the credential check-in, to going through this maze of getting to Radio Row and setting all of this stuff up. What a performance by the whole crew.
Exactly. So, it was like a pit change in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Really impressive. And as I said, we'll be here throughout the week, but we got a lot of shows on the network, and the energy is buzzing. We got media night tonight. There's availability with the players throughout the week that we'll try to sprinkle some stuff in. But our main objective is to get you quality guests here on the Radio Row Media Center aspect. They don't call it Radio Row anymore. They call it the Media Center now. For reasons like this, we're more than radio. We're multimedia.
Well, sure, but I mean, there's only so much you can do to change a name that everybody already knows. It's like you don't have to refer to the stadium by the by the name that they've sold the rights for. Like they're not paying you.
Sure.
You can do whatever you want.
What's your first Radio Row experience?
I don't know if this is what you're going for, but like my first understanding of Radio Row was the week of shows of Mike and the Mad Dog back in the day.
Okay, yeah.
Like that's, I was in New York though, and it was like such a different feel. Like
sure.
Who's gonna pop on with Mike and the Mad Dog, and they had like these Super Bowl trivia questions that Mad Dog was such a sicko for. It was good stuff.
Okay. Now, how about
you?
From your personal experience? Like
from my personal experience. I don't know. I didn't spend much time on Radio Row in 2017.
Okay.
And so really it was last year.
Just last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about you?
My first year, my first Super Bowl I covered.
Because you covered some Super Bowls that were non-Eagles.
Yeah, I covered the New York, New Jersey one. And I remember, I think, was Bruno Mars he sang then, I think. Anyways, I was waiting for an elevator with him.
This is 2 music references to you. This is fantastic.
I was leaving Radio Row. I think it's Bruno Mars. I apologize if it's not Bruno Mars, but I think it's Bruno Mars.
Sorry, Bruno, just in case.
Yeah, in case you're watching. And I remember we're at the Sheraton in Midtown Manhattan. That's where Radio Row was. And I was walking out to go down to the lobby. And I was waiting for the elevator, and with, I think, like Bruno Mars and all his people. But leaving Radio Row there. But it used to be.
I've heard that he's
short? Is that what you're about to say?
Well, I was going to say a different word, but he's more Bruno Pluto than Bruno Jupiter.
He's normal size to me, Bo.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Find a new slant. No, but I would say whether it was the Arizona one or the New York one, it was probably the Arizona one. Nick Foles coming through. Chip Kelly did a Tostitos promotion outside of Radio Row in the Phoenix Super Bowl. That's the 2014 season. That was the Seahawks Patriots, and I remember I'm waiting to talk to Chip. I'm trying to talk to Chip, right? And did not
because Chip was the connection there. That's right. That's why they used him.
Yes. And
didn't you get him at the Fiesta Bowl before he was hired by the Eagles?
I did. I went to the Fiesta Bowl there.
That was good hustle.
He said, "Is there a lot of interest in the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl at Pats and Geno's?" And I said, "This week there is." Actually, I think that quote can be found in a book that's coming out this fall. Little tease there.
The History of Pats and Geno's by Zach Berman.
So. No, those are some early. Now, 2017. I remember, I remember that Radio Row in the Mall of America, and talking to some different people there, and doing some different hits there. Last year was fun when we did our show on Radio Row, and we had some great shows with Jeff McClain, with Jimmy Kemsky, with Shield, with Ben Solak. and we're hoping to get some of those guys this week. So, yeah, I like the spontaneity of it, right? Now, our show is awesome every day, if I may say so. But our show is very structured often, right? Like we know who the guest is on a typical day. We know what the topic is on a typical day. And we're doing prep work before the show. And not to say we're not preparing for this, but a lot of this is Nick Foles is walking by. Nick, do you want to join us? Right?
Please.
And that kind of thing. I saw Rodney McLeod on TV. If Rodney McLeod's here, we'll say, Rodney, come on by, right? So stuff like that. And then I'm excited to see kind of the Bo personality shine through in some of these.
You're putting too much pressure on me here.
You're so good at those interviews. You have a way about you.
You have a way of making that sound like the opposite of a compliment.
It's literally it is a big compliment.
You have a way about you.
No, you're. That's why those Wolf Dens are so good, because you have a way about you there. So.
Yeah, but I don't know that that's what we're going to do tonight. We haven't decided about that. We'll see how it goes. I might just want to talk to Matt Pryor for 55 minutes.
We could play that on the show. That'd be interesting. Yeah, what do you want to catch up to Matt Pryor about?
How close he was to winning a PHLY. Remember that? He was one game away, and then they played him in week 17.
You see, that's Bo on the street right there. That's funny.
Yeah, I don't like the way that you say Bo on the street.
Okay. All right, we'll come up with a new name for it.
What's your most vivid memory of the 2017 Super Bowl week before game day?
Oh, I mean, talking to Howie at the media night because Howie hadn't done much like reflection about the year off before then.
Sure.
And so getting a chance to talk to Howie then. But, I mean, if I can be honest with you, that year, I had a one-on-one with Jeffrey Lurie in the team hotel. And
that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I remember waiting like in the lobby of the team hotel, and Dom like clearing me to come through, and going up there, and really enjoyed the conversation with Jeffrey. I was proud of that story. That was A1 in the Inquirer.
How long did you get him for?
About an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, 45 minutes to an hour.
What a pull.
Yeah, and I remember this, actually on the flight to Minneapolis, I was reading something about the architect the architect of the stadium.
Okay.
And I tried doing like small talk. I brought up like this random reference about the architect of the stadium.
You had no idea what you were talking about?
Nah, he was very nice about it. But then I remember like on the elevator down thinking like,
why did I use that?
Yeah, of all the things to bring up.
You thought it was a rich person type conversation.
No, I didn't think. I didn't think it was that. I just thought I thought that was cool information, right? Like, yeah, like something about the way that it's making small talk. If you've been to this stadium, and you give a little piece of information about how the stadium was designed. I thought it was neat, but I remember thinking like he was being polite. He probably didn't care at all about that. But no, the week of. That was big.
Jeffrey sit down. That's a good one.
That was big because it was like he did something at
now,
media
did you
night.
turn that around in one day?
Yeah, turned that around in one day.
Good for you.
I didn't sleep that night very much, but
when did that come out, on a Thursday?
I spoke.
When do you think you got him?
No, I spoke to Jeffrey on Thursday, I believe.
Ooh, a Friday story.
And then I spoke to Jeffrey Wednesday night, and the story ran Friday.
Okay, so you wrote it Thursday.
Wrote it Thursday. Yeah. So that
That's a good answer.
Jumped out.
Now you close your eyes.
And then I had some really good meals on Friday Saturday, the night before the game. I went with Jeff McClain and Bob Ford and Greg Bedard to like this hole in the wall Italian place. That was awesome. So that sticks out too.
Okay. Now you close your eyes and you think back to last year. What's the most vivid memory you have of the week of Super Bowl, not including the game? Uh-oh.
No, I mean I was real proud of the stories that.
Oh, you're laughing because you don't want to.
No, I'm laughing because.
But toot your own horn again.
No, if you really want to be honest.
Yeah.
I remember like working on a book deal at the same time.
Oh,
right?
sure, yeah.
Like in the if the Eagles won book deal, and trying to kind of hammer down some of those details.
Yeah, okay.
But I had 5 stories. Like, I wanted to write a big feature every day during that Super Bowl, and I did, and like I did a Laurie story, and I did a Howie story, and then I had the Lane Johnson story, and I had a few others there mixed in.
Banana pudding.
Yeah, well, Banana Pudding was the second day. Lane Johnson was the first day. I wrote Lane Johnson actually on the flight from Phoenix, or from Philly to Phoenix. Took a late night flight again. I remember writing that. So that's why I needed the Wi-Fi to work, right? But then just hang out with. I would honestly answer hang out with you and Sheil. Great. We did a great Italian meal last year. We saw Paul McCartney.
Oh, that was a good meal.
Yeah. And Deniz and Ben Harris.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I really like the meet. I like the meetup, seeing different
absolutely.
Fans of the show. Sunset Shaz, shout out to Sunset Shaz. And then just covering that game with you was it was a fun week together. It was good bonding, and I was real proud of our work.
Well, we've got some more bonding to come this week, my friend, as we proceed from Radio Row for Super Bowl week for the PHLY Eagles podcast, all week presented and brought to you by Factor Meal Kits. You know all about Factor Meal Kits. As you said, Zach, all the good reasons for Factor Meal Kits. If you go to factormeals.com/Eagles50 and use code Eagles50, you get 50% off. And that'll do it for day one from Radio Row for the PHLY Eagles podcast. Zach, good stuff. Thank you to EJ Smith. Thank you to Zach. Thank you to Julia and the whole All-City crew for getting us pit crewed and ready to go just in time for this episode. We will be back tomorrow, 12 o'clock noon on the East Coast, 9 o'clock here in Las Vegas. Thanks to everybody for listening and watching. We'll be back with more tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.